Okay, call to order for committee of the whole meeting Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Roll call, please, Kim.
Simon,
Here.
Babcock,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Rhoda,
Here.
me,
Here.
Gustafson. Here. Thank you.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Number one, approval of the minutes for the meeting of the committee of the whole from November 18, 2025. So moved. Second.
Wright,
Yes.
me,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Rhoda,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Number two, approval of the minutes for the meeting of the committee of the whole from November 4th, 2025. So moved. Second. Kim?
Me,
Yes.
Rhoda,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Thank you.
First of two public comments. Anyone? Anyone online? No? Very good, thank you. New business. Number three, discussion and recommendation of a parking lot surface waiver for the property located at 5714 Elevator Road, Pietro's Pizzeria.
In your packet, you've got sort of a good, I think, a pretty good summary of what this is. This is something the village has done in the past. Obviously, in some of the comments tonight, we've heard trying to be consistent with our codes. This is the lot next to Pietro's. This is one that the village was working with for a long time on prior to the Pietro's business and the owner purchasing that lot. However, it still remains unpaved. I'm sure you've seen it sort of in the entrance of town there. We've been working with the owner for the last probably 2 years as he's been working through his plans, designs. He's got some plans for expansion, which is exciting. But again, we some sort of formal with this lot. They're just ignoring it, that it's out there. So we have worked with him on this, up with some conditions, up with some timelines. And this is just sort of a formal action by the board to sort of acknowledge the plan for the paving of the parking lot. So that's what you've got in front of you at this point. So it's just gonna be discussion to waive that current requirement or sort of suspend that current requirement or make a formal way to when they're going to actually pay it.
Is there a date or a waiver link?
The dates we have on here are December 16th through August 1st. We talked with him. He wants to build as soon as possible in the spring. However, we always know construction can go long. When the plant's open, right, that won't be probably until April or so for the asphalt plants. And then he's been working for his actual property to actually extend out his building to sort of do some future renovations that he's got in the works. So
August?
it is August 1st is what we've got in here. Obviously, you can, we can reduce that. We can make it different timings. And the other issue on here too, you'll note on there, by February 1st, is a lot combination that currently is two parcels. As I mentioned before, the parcel where on the left side, as you're looking at it, so the west side, is a separate parcel. And I think there's a garage on there right now. That's one of the issues we had with the prior owners. They had a storage lot there. But to have his business expand over that lot line, to expand into that, make it one location, you just have to combine that parcel. So we've given deadline on February 1st by that. And then by April 1st, he'll have to present to us sort of his full engineered site plan for the actual paving, the actual expansion that he's planning on doing. I think he has a lot of that done. It's just the site plans at this point. He has the construction documents almost done for the building. It's just going to be the site plan and then some of the surveys he's going to do on. And so we do have it sort of staggered out throughout the spring. So we can keep track of it. We work with him, we talk with him. I believe he actually already signed it and sent it back to us. So I think there's actually a signed version of it. But yeah, it's ready to go. And I think it's a good sort of a good way to keep this project moving and make sure we're consistently following our own ordinances.
I make a motion to proceed with this plan.
Second.
I'm sorry.
It's in a second.
Sorry. Who was the first?
For number 31st. John wrote it first, Mike, right?
Babcock,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Mead,
Yes.
Rhoda,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Thank you. So I apologize. Sorry.
Those are fine.
If I might ask you, how does that go to board? That go to board as a resolution or?
It was just passed as a resolution.
As a resolution?
The waiver, the actual waiver document there, there'll be a resolution like that was kind of. Okay, I think we previously did this with County Methodist Church, when they were trying to develop their property. Just to get everybody on the same page and keep the process. But thank you.
Very good. Number 4, discussion and recommendation of professional services agreement with Place Foundry LLC to provide economic development consulting services to the village of Roscoe, I-90/Rockton Road corridor.
We do have two of our representatives from Place Foundry here. I think at the last board meeting, there was a request to get an update proposal on some of this. So I can have them come up. Jeff and Mark,
Yeah. Thank you.
I think you've all met previously.
Yeah.
Mark, Sharon. Jeff.
Mark's working on sharing and presenting here, so yeah, appreciate the opportunity to speak to the board here about the contract. Really, the purpose of this short PowerPoint that we're gonna do is to give you an understanding of how we laid out the work plan for next year. And of course, answer any questions that you all have in terms of how we structured that and how we see development moving forward in this area. So we spoke at this meeting a month ago and kind of laid out where we were at the time and where we were headed. And so since that time, we've put together our second report, which we call the Place Blueprint, which is really the implementation plan for the Rockton Road corridor. It was sent to the village on Friday, so you guys don't have a copy in front of you, but just wanted to update you that that draft is in.
And they do have a copy of the, in their packets, they have copies.
There's a link. So.
They have a link to it, yeah.
Great. So you all had the report. Great. We also today even had a chance to talk to another property owner and had a really good conversation with them. So again, getting to the end of our 5-month contract, we've wrapped up, really the planning portion of this. And so we want to move into what can happen next to promote development in this area. So again, this is the corridor. You guys all had the report, but I mean, going through the process, understanding, what the potential of this area was. We think this is an extremely valuable area for the village. You guys have access, from everywhere from Janesville down to Belvedere, that can easily get here, get off the interstate and visit. And so what you build here is going to be, your front door and your reputation as a village. And so, building something that is cohesive, nice, represents the village's values, would, really do a lot to continue to grow the village and get towards your goals and your village vision. So we set forth a vision, leveraging I-90, building off of North Point, your great local demographics, the schools, the families, all of those things, and mapping out industrial development, convenient shopping and dining, hospitality, just different home products to get more young families, young couples into the village, and putting it all together into a self-sustaining environment where residents can live, work, and recreate. And so that's, the overall vision of what we put together as our draft plan. So since our last meeting, we had a couple conversations that prompted some further consideration of whether we can, actively develop recruit development within this area. Infrastructure is kind of a key issue, especially along the Love Road area. That's a large project that the village is looking at. Of course, you're pursuing funding and grants, but because of the way that that is situated, it causes difficulty in developing in the immediate future before that project gets done. And so that, along with a couple other projects, we feel like need to be worked out in terms of what the village would want to move forward with, so that we can confidently then talk with developers about what this will actually look like. And then just implementing zoning recommendations, overlay districts, incentives, all of those things, when worked out, will make the area more marketable. And so the way that we constructed this was around some workshops with the board to work together and kind of cast that vision for the future. And so what that does in terms of schedule, first 3 quarters, again, implementing parts of the plan, looking at infrastructure, and putting those things together. And then towards the end of next year, looking at active recruitment, and then trying to get those letters of intent and actual, deals being made 2027, moving towards groundbreaking beyond that. Again, infrastructure is a major issue that needs to be worked out. A lot of this language was in the contract, but really when you look at this map, by the number 2, all of that is very much affected by the Love Road alignment. Number 3 does not have water service currently. And so that piece of infrastructure needs to be worked out. However, we've already talked with that property owner and they're willing to sell. It's a nice area around residential properties. And so if we can work out what getting water service there would be, then we can, work on developing that. And then number 1, Rockton Road, the fairground has put together engineering plans for Willowbrook and that intersection of Willowbrook and Rockton Road. But there's some highly developable land right along there that you would likely need to do improvements along Rockton Road. So making a plan for what is needed there. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Mark to talk about the other section.
Thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff kind of alluded to, as we're going through these 3 decisions, the second decision is really, what do we want to build here? What is our long-term vision? And then how do we attract developers? So some of the work in this step is really, as Jeff mentioned, drafting some of those standards, overlay districts, and zoning amendments in order to get to that outcome of this is what we want to build here, and also structuring incentives. So I know at the last meeting, we briefly discussed some of those possibilities of business development district, TIF district, enterprise zone, really structuring that in a way that's going to attract the development and make it more economically feasible, and bringing all those things for the second board workshop, which would be reviewing those standards and then providing the recommendations moving forward. And then finally, once we've gotten to that point, what properties do we want to really actively market first? And how do we want them to look? So this is where we continue with what we've already gotten a really good start on, which is that property owner outreach that Jeff alluded to earlier, and really building that partnership between the village and us as, that conduit with the property owners. And then for a lot of these sites that have much larger footprints, 146 acres, 85 acres, how are we going to break that down into more bite-sized pieces? What's that going to look like? So the final board workshop would then be approving this priority list and then the marketing strategy moving forward, which is where the active recruitment really comes in. Once we've gotten all of this down and the board feels comfortable with the direction. So some of the marketing materials that will be included in this portion would be a professional website, site-specific brochures that really outline what incentives are available, acreages, and potential layouts, as well as coordinating with a number of different economic development agencies in the region. So why does this have to wait until late 2026 or well into 2026 is really about making sure that we've aligned all our priorities and checked off as many boxes as possible so that developers have clear answers about timing on things like infrastructure, and they understand what is available in terms of incentives? These are going to be really, really critical to attracting those developers, giving them confidence that they can move forward with the deal. And they're not going to get stuck with very long infrastructure projects that have uncertain start dates, uncertain funding sources as well. So I'll hand it back to Jeff.
Yeah, and to close out, really, we're asking for consideration between two options. Work through the first 9 months, those 3 quarters at that fee, and then the other option is to just go through the entire year. Again, the schedule and how we've put this together. Really, it's trying to get your ducks in a row and be able to have good, clear conversations with developers that, you know, are going to be investing a lot of money in the village. And so we want to have the ability to put our best foot forward in those conversations, and build something that's really nice for the village of Roscoe. With that, are there any questions?
Questions and discussion?
I'd make a comment. I think that one of the things that this board has done is, before I was elected, one of the problems, and I remember speaking to the previous boards, what's missing is vision. And I think if you look at your bottom line statement from your document you approved, it stands out to me. 20 years will feel like forever, but 20 years from now, Roscoe will have either captured this opportunity or missed it. And as y'all know, and all the work that you did on this document was very impressive, but all that planning is to start with our capital improvement plan and this vision to execute on something where it might take 5, 10, 20 years. But I think we're very well positioned with a board that sees the vision, and thank you for place founder what you did on Main Street and for this document. I think it's very well thought out. So a lot of work went into it, so appreciate it.
I have a procedural question. As we look at the 3 decisions that you outlined had to be made by this board, did I understand you say the process would be, we would have, as a group, a workshop on each one of these topics? And the end objective of this workshop would be to address all of those things that are there? Is that how you see this process happening? I'm looking at the titles of them. Yeah, our first workshop would be about where we want to go with infrastructure. Correct.
Correct.
And so we're looking at like a hour and a half or something where we brainstorm what we want to do about this and examine the cost estimates and establish priorities. Is that what we're?
Yeah, we would want to, you know, we'll do the legwork and we'll present, you know, what the situation is and the options. And so it won't be a start from scratch type of meeting, but the intent is to get in alignment with the board, and so that the board can have the opportunity to give direction to those items.
And since we've done some preliminary work here, it would be coordination with our engineering firm also to
Correct.
re-examine. It was a while ago that we all took a look at what those plans were. So re-examine them and tweak based on different needs now or perceptions or.
Yeah, when that was originally laid out, the uses are different than what we put in our plan. And as you mentioned, even federally, there's a kind of a buzzword of family values used around grants. And so the fact that we've put residential in here probably helps with getting funding. But it's also a little bit of a different, there's a different traffic that's associated with that, and then a different character when you're building that type of road that's going to be in a residential area.
And then last, logically, pacing of this, do you see a first one, decision-making on the infrastructure in 1 month, and then the second in the next month, or every 2 weeks, or once a week? How fast is it recommended that we do this, or can we do it? Gathering the necessary information and.
Oh, on one particular topic?
Each of those 3 decisions that you've outlined, I'm just looking at I'm asking what would
Every
be
three,
the
every
piece?
3 months would be the cadence of those workshops. So we'd be able to prepare the materials, distribute to them so that everyone can look at it beforehand, and have a meeting in March and then June and then September. So it'd be broken out kind of into quarters with when we would be meeting.
But in the interim, if there's a cold call, somebody wants to know something, we still would be able to pursue conversations that just
Yeah.
organically happen.
Yes, this does not push that off. However, there are certain areas within the whole study area that you couldn't really develop right now because of infrastructure.
I had a question, Jeff. I've lived up in Roscoe for 15 years, lived right off Rockton Road, drive there to and from the airport every day, right? So, and I've seen the signs for Stockford Group, for businesses to being developed. We've had previous administration saying it's shovel ready, we're ready to go. And it really comes down to the contingency of property owners, right? I mean, all these plans that we could put in, it's almost like building a Sim City, right? Saying, okay, we could do this, we could have this, what it would look like and all this stuff. But it's not gonna happen unless we get it sold and get people to do it. So I guess my first question is, how realistic is that opportunity on Love Road? I mean, we've had people come and say, yeah, we're close, it's gonna happen. And the feedback that we've heard is that they're not willing to parcel, that cost is, if you look at maybe $150,000 an acre for 100 acres, I mean, you start getting into $50-60 million investments by developers that, I don't think they'd be realistic. So I would love to have a plan, and I think we need to have a plan, but is it too soon to do this if we just are not at that point with getting property moved?
Yeah, the feedback that you were mentioning, was that from a property owner?
Or you just
Love Road, or-
said something about, you guys had discussions with the property owner on Love Road that's willing to, I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, that was a conversation that we had, I believe, in October.
Correct.
And so he owns 2 and 3. He really owns all of that except what's west of Love Road. And so our conversation with him, of course, it was an initial conversation, was that he was very much in favor of selling. He wanted to do something that would contribute positively to the village. And that he wanted the village to guide the recruitment of developers, bring them, and he just did not have the technical wherewithal to navigate that whole process. So from that conversation, we came away thinking that this was a pretty realistic opportunity to, sell something within his properties, just by the way that he talked with us.
Did the economics work? I mean, you didn't have that discussion, right? As far as what the cost would be, what the developer be. I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic here on because, again, I don't think we want to invest in this unless we really have somebody it's feasible, right? I've heard this year after year after year, and we all want this. We all want this for our village, but it's just a matter of, is it something that is feasible? And if it is, we work with an individual parcel owner as opposed to developing a huge plan, just sort of break it down in chunks as opposed to doing something more comprehensive. Those are some thoughts there.
I would like to add to what Mike's saying though. I believe Mike is right when he says that, okay, it's realistic, but at the same time, having done many, many big projects, I know that you have to do a lot of foundational stuff to have something to talk to them seriously about. This is what we're going to do. So I think what you put together is the roadmap and document that you get to show people that says, it's not just waving your hands in the air, but say, hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan. Here's how we get there. And then that's when the landowner says, okay, if he actually said, I don't have the exact, they don't have the experience. They need somebody like yourself to come and say, here's our picture. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what the timeline is. And that's the way you get people when they have something they can, it's a marketing pitch, but marketing is what gets people excited because they can see the future.
I have a question. I note in here, utilization of TIF, and BDD. And I was just wondering the timing of development of the TIF, because the TIF, much of the expenses the village would already be incurring would be TIF eligible expenses. But if the TIF's not in place, the expenses are incurred before the development of the TIF, then they're in essence not being paid back by the TIF. Also, establishment of the TIF at an earlier stage would provide land acquisition leverage, because you'd have the right to push the sale of the property at a appraised fair market value, as opposed to a property owner who thinks the property is worth 10 times what it really is. So I'm just questioning what strategically I see it under decision development option, whatever decision 2, whether that was in late 26 or 27, would it make any sense to? I mean, I know once you do the TIF, you're burning the 23 years, but it would provide leverage, and it would provide the ability of the village to have expenses they incur as TIF eligible. Just thought.
Yeah, no,
Promote development, right?
that's right. Yeah, I can't speak specifically to how long it would take to get that enacted. We did have that as kind of that second decision point, once we get going into next year of, okay, we have, this plan ready. How do we want to change our zoning? How do we want to change or add an overlay district, and then decide on the incentives at that point? So that would be really before the active marketing per se, if that's getting to your question.
Yeah, I would encourage you to look at the benefits of having a TIF earlier than later. Sure. Yes, it takes 6 months, or it takes some time to develop a TIF, but that's an argument to start it earlier.
Absolutely.
As opposed to starting it later. So look at that.
No, I appreciate it.
Because once you get the TIF in place, it gives you power that you don't currently have, and it allows you to funds you expend or TIF eligible expenses can be paid back out of the increment, which is ultimately generated. So just throwing that out.
Yeah, appreciate your comment. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really the type of conversation that we want to have at that workshop. What are the pros and cons of implementing this? What's the timing? What's the strategy? So, yeah, absolutely. That's a great point.
There,
Quick clarification.
may I just, go ahead.
That's certain.
There are several things that seem to be balls in the air right now. If you read the latest summary that Joe sent out the other day, we had a meeting at R1, and R1 is going to facilitate a grant application, part of the build project, $1.5 billion available nationwide. And because this area is classified as rural, we were led to believe that there's great merit in that we could get federal funding for that entire length of Love Road, and it would not require matching dollars. So this becomes a question, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? We're told that if you have the infrastructure in place, then that becomes more attractive to developers, because of course those are costs they don't have to incur themselves. So that's in play. And then the property owner is very receptive to, again, to quote him, do what's best for Roscoe. He loves the idea of having housing in an area as well as mixed use at the top and maintaining the green space. So it hits all of the things about family friendly type of things. So there have been no conversations with him as to dollar amount. He's looking for a legacy, and the exact dollar amount of each parcel, I guess, depends on what comes in there. It will be different if it's a commercial area right at the intersection versus a larger swath of residential at the bottom. But this is a person who is not going to sit on his property for 20 years. He doesn't want to bequeath it, to distant relatives in an estate. He wants to see something in. He has agreed to sign a letter of support for that scenario, having mixed use, residential, and going after the grant. if that helps to clarify what his vision is. And it might also be helpful when we have these conversations that you all meet him and hear what he has to say. Just a thought. Your question?
All right, so it's multi-part, so I want to just clarify. Attorney Green, first, you're saying if a TIF district was put in place first, then some of the costs such as what we're looking here, like this proposal, engineering, that stuff would be then in the TIF could be money we can recapture.
Reimbursed, right?
Okay,
And I will say, ahead of a TIF, you can do an inducement resolution that is passed by the board even before the TIF's in place, but the inducement, and I don't remember if it's 6 months or some number of months, might be here, where you acknowledge that you're incurring expenses that you anticipate reimbursing yourself out of a TIF that might be done 6 or 8 months later.
Okay.
So that's an inducement resolution as part of the process. So anyway, yes.
that's one point. I just want clarification on that, so thank you. Number two, then, the infrastructure would have to be done in order to put, the cart before the horse. We have to have infrastructure in place, so this way developers are ready to come in. That would be done through the R1 grant opportunities. So then would we not have, and I'm just asking, enough information right now in our proposal, unless we have an active developer that's looking to get going right this minute? Do we not have enough information here to put into our grant? I mean, I've seen beautiful brochures and the development plan and everything for the area for the 6 months that I've been here. To go ahead and get the grant money, get that part moving, get the TIF district in place. All as we're going, show the grant with grant writing that we have the TIF in place, which I know residential could be used in a TIF district as well. To get all that going before we just keep spending on plans and workshops and everything else when we have these projects that need to get moving in that zone. I just don't want to have a second time, like, and we spoke about this, the lot that's taking so long right now. I understand it was unforeseen circumstances, changes happen, but then there are pop-ups and it's just a lot of money being spent. And I want to have the plan in place. Do we have enough right now to go out there and say, this is our plan, this is the grant we'd like to go for, this is our plan, this is the infrastructure we want to put in phases, this is ready to go. And then once we have that in place, then retake services, find the developer, bring them in. You have more tools in the toolbox.
I agree, John. That was sort of what I was thinking as far as the timing of this. Is a lot of money. It's a big ask.
I'm just that, yeah.
We've been saying that budgets have been tight, and if you look at the pop-ups, we spent over $120,000 with Place Foundry, and we sort of got ahead in the planning phase, but not in the execution phase. And now we're sort of in a position where that money's been sunk. We have the plans for it. We're going to be delaying it. So my thought is, could there be something where it could be more economical, or combining this and looking at this further down the road? As far as it's not kicking it down the road, like you're saying, it's doing the TIF, it's doing some other
It's
things.
getting the other.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's gonna be a cost to the TIF, right? There's gonna be a cost, there's no cost obviously from what we're being told with R1, with the plan, with the grant writing, but there's obviously gonna be some costs entailed with getting us to that point.
I'd like to identify that they already have paid for and already have a lot of narrative and planning and illustrations as to what needs to be done in that particular area, and that will be transferred to the grant application. So in talking with the team at R1 that is building the grant, we said, we have this product from Place Foundry that was done already. We will send it to you. And they were saying, yes, we can use that. We can plug it in here. We can plug it in there. So that is a product that you've already paid for. And that is a product that will go into the grant application for this Willowbrook Road. The application deadline is February 24, I think. So we're ready to go with that. Or let's say they're working on it. They have the rough materials to do that. And then Fair Graham is breaking down the road into what would be phases in pricing the phases, because that is also required by the grant.
Right, and there'll be engineering costs, obviously, and what we would need for the intersection of Willowbrook, not Willowbrook, I'm sorry, Love Road and Rockton, what we would need at the box culvert, what we would need to continue to go to Prairie.
So the overall design, I'll just say it's essentially complete. We got approved on the Willowbrook Road project. We just sent our final minor plan revision, resubmittal to IDOT for the Love Road project. But if, say the grant, right, the maximum award, I think, is $25 million, which as of right now should encompass the entire project and not have to phase that. But if they come back and say we have to phase this project, there will be a little bit of additional engineering that's required to get the plan set from a full design build to the phased. But the costs are going to be significantly less than what, an overall design project that has taken 5 years, to get to that final point. So I guess to answer your question, in short, yeah, there will be some additional expenses. But the hope is that we don't have to do that, and maybe this grant is successful and we can get the entire project done to where no additional engineering is required.
To another thing to your point, there was a great deal of angst in paying the millions of dollars for engineering studies for 3 different areas. And that was done years ago. But fast forward, we're now told, because we've done this advanced planning and we have all of this material that we can just plug into the grant application, that then elevates our application because we are already beyond those preliminary planning stages. So preliminary work, no one can guarantee how long it will take until you see the benefit of it, but we have. So I think we began this planning 5 years ago or so, at least 5 years ago, just to get all of this stuff approved, and that's how long it takes. But now it is, and it can be put into the grant, and we can make a deadline that is 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away.
I think the key point is what these guys are bringing to the table is something that you probably can't see, but there's a lot of project management to executing all these steps along the way. And we don't have that ability here to do it. So just that aspect alone is every dollar we spend we know what the result is coming out of it.
Motion or second?
Well, I just think this has been a good discussion. We've gotten a lot of information here. I mean, the TIF, all that. And so I just think that, I don't think this is actionable. We don't need to do anything about this right now, do we?
I thought we had to make a motion as far as.
It says discussion, recommendation. We don't have to make a recommendation. We can think about it. We're talking about, we talked about the TIF. We just got the information on the R1 last night. So, I'm not ready to have any recommendations at all at this point.
And the information on R1 last night, this meeting was on Monday. It just happened. And they had a notice
Is there
of funding.
expectation for motion or what's expectation out of this?
Committee to hold. We don't have.
You can lay it over, we can.
Could have it on the agenda again in 2 weeks. I don't know.
To examine and
For you
there
guys?
was questions.
What direction do you want to give Place Factory here? I mean, this is the board asked for an update proposal.
Right.
Do you want it to be different? Do you want it to be more? Do you want something, nothing? Are there things you would like to see in a proposal for development services or not?
Well, I would love-
But-
I'd like to have a bit of time to see what action, we have to get our 2027 budget put together. I'd like to get our action for what it would cost and how to get this TIF district going first. I would rather do, like I said, put the horse first before the cart instead of the other way. I appreciate all of the hard work that's been done on each of the different zones we have. I want to have the other things in place before I just continue to spend money. I know that sucks to hear. But consulting is that you're consulting us on items that we might not be in, but do we need to keep going until we get a few other ducks in a row, or do we take a break for a bit and get things going and try to hold on to a little cash just for that moment?
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think that you keep going because the amount of money we're spending here is minimal compared to other things on our budget that we have spent on. For example, Tom's a nice guy, but we're spending over $105,000 so far on that, which we have the result of the answers to the question. But I'm just saying that this is something that moving forward is gonna establish the 20 years down the road that we're gonna look back at. And so I don't think you can, for the amount of money they're asking for, I think it's reasonable.
I'll make a motion to lay it over until, so we get a chance to think about it. We're doing the budget discussions. We talk about TIF. We can talk about it at the next committee of whole meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Rhoda,
Yes.
Babcock,
No,
Sima,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Mead.
Yes.
Thank you.
Old business number 5, fall 2026 budget process, discussion of operating
Thanks,
budget.
John. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Like to start. I have questions from people I can start going. Everybody, I got printouts, actually, you want printouts of the current. We have, the same way you have other, is there one?
Have you revised them?
No, the same way you should have in your.
I got 3 printouts, so the same.
I had a question, Joe.
Yeah.
Is there another level of visibility, department head level, the visibility that the board members are not currently having access to that we potentially should or could have access to, or
I
not?
think everything should be, I can share the screen.
So there's-
You should have full access to full view of all the, even like the itemization.
But I can see everything that Troy can see or
Yeah.
you can see.
Yep.
That's
That
okay,
is
John.
all
Okay.
under the expenditures tab, I can share my screens, see it. I'll show you on there.
So just real quick, Joe, I want to thank you, Joe, for getting me the information I requested last week. The 141 pages, that was very insightful. Page 5 was missing. So from the packet from December to the next one, but it was weird. It just like wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But just letting you know in case it got deleted.
Well, page 5 was the, yeah, it's just to save pages.
So I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be there or not, but I just want to make a note of that. But I do appreciate that. It was close. I was trying to find if we actually had a year to date on revenue as it came in, but I understand there's a lot of moving parts in that, so it'll be a year from now when we get the audit to see.
It will not be necessarily in this, we get as close as we can in the budget document you see, the actual most accurate year dates are what Mark presents to you every few weeks.
The October, and then October.
And those are the, and here's more recently.
And I was just trying to see some of the revenues to kind of see where how close our actual starting point is. So I do appreciate that, but I understand that some of that doesn't come as easily when we're waiting on other municipalities to pay us and other taxing bodies.
Timing difference. You work from a month to 3 months.
So the documents you sent me on last week, that should be.
Yeah, that's the same.
In there right now.
That's, I mean, I'll show it to you, but
I
that's.
just make sure I'm not working off something that's different.
This is that webpage that everybody has access to.
Critical.
Yeah, that's a clear go, correct, yep. And so I've got obviously the board materials, is what I print out usually, those are the sort of my account number, that's really what we're budgeting by. I think what trustee Simon is asking for is.
Can you
We
drill
use the
down
tool,
further into
Yeah,
that?
we use this,
We see where you drill down further into it, get more information.
so if you look under expenditure overview. Yeah. So I got expenditure overview, in budget summary here. We've got budgets with itemizations. So, yeah, these are sort of what we use to sort of internally use to get, and I think it's what you're asking for, is here's what makes up, full-time employees. Here's the, the wages for this, here's the longevity pay, here's all the smaller items that actually make up those account numbers. And these are useful to an extent, I guess. You can sort of see some of the things that go into it. But generally, we're looking at sort of the whole picture of it. We're looking at what we spent last year, what, overall budget we have. not everything we spend gets into one of these itemizations, right? So the ones we know, like, here's Ring Central phone service, right? We saved a bunch this year with that, but there's Ring Central for that department. So that's the admin department. So that helps us make up the telephone and data number, but really what you're budgeting, what you're approving is that telephone and data account number. What you see on your budget that we send out to you. So yeah, this is something that, yeah, we use internally to sort of figure out what, it helps us put together those accounts and helps us put together those line items, but that's not necessarily going to be the full, complete, what it goes in there, just because we don't put a itemization in for every single expenditure we possibly have. It's just the ones that we generally know ahead of time that it helps us put together.
No, so can you go back, because this is what I've been asking for. I'd like to, this is like the tutorial where you can see how you got to this information, what we can see here, and I think this is very helpful, at least to me, because we're looking off spreadsheets, but if you go into the ClearGov section, it's not overly obvious. Like, is there a section where you can see when things were added, when things were taken out, who audited those types of things, who entered things? Are you able to see that type of information, Joe?
Well, what maybe you're asking for is that version comparison. I put that in for you guys last time. This is what you guys got sent to as well, but this is that same salary. This is that same account numbers you've been looking at. Usually what I've been handing out are, year to dates or what our estimates are for it. And then see what those numbers are. You've got that tab there that says budget comparisons. That actually will show you from the last time. So this is from the draft you had last board meeting to the draft we have this board meeting. Any sort of changes that might be in there.
We'll see that there.
Yeah.
And again, to go back, that is under.
That's under departmental version comparisons. So it's under your budget process materials, your version comparisons. And you do the same thing for revenues. It's the same idea there. I actually have all these. I have this printed. I can give it to you. Here's the revenue changes that were sent out.
See,
I'm going through ClearGov, that's why.
It's what Joe said, that link.
Yeah, that link is the link. Yeah, this should be the same exact link the whole time. So,
yeah.
nothing's changed.
I just have it pinned on from last year. The website's still the same, but it should be the same access, right? I mean, as far as ClearGov.
Yeah, except last year, I think we used a different form of it. We didn't use this budget book as much last year. So, and the budget book obviously changes every year. So the address is going to be different each budget cycle. So this is where I sent out to everybody, several times now. This is the one we've been working on these last board meetings. I usually print out at the board meeting that this budget process tab here. This is what I've been printing out for you guys when you get to your spots and those printouts. It's just these items. I have them here just to make it easier because they're sort of the main ones we're actually looking at or talking about. There's that sheet that we hand out for meetings, but so yeah, these are all just the same. So it's just these tabs here are what we've been looking at and talking about at each of the board meetings. But then yeah, there's lots of additional information in there. That's those are the main guidance. Yeah. The only thing I added from last time was that comparison one. I thought it'd be helpful to see what we've subtracted in between our meetings. So that's what those are.
Where would we like to start?
Yep.
Do we want to start with expenditures by departments, or do we want to? Because I had one question I really was just curious to, going through all the expenditures by department. Most of our departments have an information tech. It's on page 8 in the ClearGov book. First page 8, informational technology software, SaaS.
Yeah.
One department it's 10 grand, another department has that same item for 50 grand, another department has that same item for $500. What is that software that we're working with?
That is, so we broke out this last year. That is all of our software. I mean,
because when we total it up, it's like.
Yep, so that's gonna be, so each department can use different types of software.
Right, because it was like almost $98,000 just software.
Yep.
I was just curious, I was seeing the same exact thing being billed to every department. I'm like, that didn't make sense. So I'm asking questions, because this is my first
No,
budget
they're
cycle,
good.
so I wanna-
They're good.
I want to understand these things. I saw the same thing with hardware as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, are we buying new computers every year too?
And this is one of those things you can sort of see what's made up in those different sections if you go to those itemizations. So, so if we do like information. So this is the general administration one. We've got our consulting services, which are our IT company. Yeah, it gets higher all the time. Something we can consider looking at this year, but that's currently what we're at with our IT consulting. We've got, in this case, we've got the Laserfish annual numbers that are in there. We have we've got computer purchase replacements. These are for last year's too, though. But we've got computer replacements in there. Every year we cycle through different computers. We've got our password managers. And these are pretty much in all of the departments, you'll see. But we have our password manager. And again, most of these are per user. So each department, so the police department's gonna have higher numbers than, administration or public works. And some of these are gonna be higher for just blocking it. So we've got those, we've got
No, because then like,
Acrobat, right? So Acrobat, $220. It's Acrobat, we've got our asset management system, that is for all of them, that's gonna be $220 a year for everything for our asset management. We've got our one of our proposals this year is to switch over to some AI. So we've got AI line item in budgets. We haven't done that yet. Obviously, it's gonna go, the board will have a discussion on that when we get to the point, but
now is that broken down even more than the item 01-017-5952? Is that like subsections of something?
yeah, so those, the actual account we're budgeting for is that 01-10-5952 or 40-5952. That line item, that 5952 item
Yes,
is going to be that information technology software across all the departments.
right.
Previously, we just put it into one category. Now we do split them amongst departments on there. So yeah, those itemizations you see underneath there, that 0365 subscription, right? That's the estimate for the number for that department. Manager. Those are all going to be here that same account number. That's going to be part of what makes up what we're actually budgeting, which is the information technology software, the software line item, that 5952. Like I said, those itemizations you see, those categories underneath there, those are just what help us make up, help us figure out what makes up those numbers for all of them, for every one of these itemizations. Those are what go into that bigger pot of the account number. And that's a rough estimate. It helps us figure it out. Like we know we have Zoom subscription, so that's why that's in there. We know we've got, Laserfish stuff. We know we've got password managers departments. We know we've got the Microsoft subscriptions. So that helped us figure out what those numbers are. And then of course we'll look, that's what this is, but we can figure out most of the software ones ahead of time. But a lot of times you're going to see in different departments, you'll see a list of those items, password manager, Laserfish, whatever. And then you're going to see sort of uncategorized number. And that's going to be for all the other stuff that goes into that account. Based on previous budgets, based on department heads going through their bills from the past years, going through their expenses, their planned expenditures. And we create that final top line number, which is actually the account number. And that's what you see in those budgets. Those itemizations are just assisting internally for us to get up to that number and figure out what we're spending. Just it's a tool that we use to help us. And previously we didn't even have it in here, like we didn't actually have it as part of our process on there. It was just department heads, going through, and they probably had their own spreadsheets for it, and they do figure out all that. But this way it allows us to put it into one system so we can all sort of look at it. So that's what those are. That's what itemizations are. again, you can get too granular on that. You know, the big picture is to look at, you know, that account number.
But I was just curious,
Yeah.
saying the same thing over and over again. I wanted to wanted to know exactly
Yeah.
why does each department build at such crazy increments?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first thing.
Yep, and again, you can look at all the departments on those and you can see what Sam's got. And Sam's gonna have different, or the police department's gonna have different software than, you know, we have here. They've got some different software and some of it's the same. Public Works has different software. They've got their Apex, the different system that they use. And then some of it's the same. You're gonna see that all Office 365 subscription, everybody's, that's, you know, that's something we're stuck with. That's just reality of life and how that works and software we use. And you'll see some others more specifics to those departments. You'll see something there. And you can go to those and check into those line items. Yep, other general questions?
Yeah, so the total expenditures right now, and it's in progress, right? Everything's in progress.
When it says in progress, yeah, that's the current non-finalized 2026 numbers, what it says that in progress on it.
9.5 is expenditures, right?
9458,
Yeah.
84.
Yeah, 9.5. And then revenue is 8.6.
Revenue, estimate of revenue currently is that, revenues are 7.3 estimate revenues, and then the total budget expenditures currently is at 9.2. That's that page, that summary page of the revenue card. That's that same breakdown we went over last time.
Right, there's been some changes
There has
from
been some changes.
second to now, 'cause like,
Correct.
we're now looking at our projected revenue is higher by just over $250,000
Yep. Okay.
From-
Grab
2 weeks ago.
copy machine. If I'm up here.
Oh.
Be easier for us to see them. I didn't show them here. You got them there too. Okay. It's easier to have. So yeah, the changes, that's in that change column we got there. So that's that change. Let's change items here. Go there, you can see all the changes that have been made since the last board meeting, since our last.
Right.
So here's revenues here. So yeah, the revenue changes that have happened since there are the actual based on the tax levy. So these are the actual tax levy numbers. The ones you're looking at before were the estimates we had. This is sort of the final tax levy numbers that are going to get approved. That's what those numbers are. So that's why you see those increases along the way there.
Right.
So that's what you got on here. So these are the only changes in the revenue that have happened since the last meeting.
Right, the budget general fund operating expenditures went up about 40 grand. Debt service shortfall stayed the same, the transfer stayed the same.
Yeah, the only thing that changed were the property taxes. So they just got matched up. That's what this is right here. That matches it up with the levy itself, our final actual tax levy. Versus just like the estimates that we were using.
So you're saying our revenues are $1 million less than our expenditures?
Revenues are roughly the same, but yeah, as we were before, but yeah, roughly that. That really hasn't changed too much. And all the numbers changed a little bit over the process here, but roughly they're. Same, if that makes sense.
Yes, and expenditures exceed revenue collected. And the shortfall was
1.8.
accommodated by transferring from the general fund
Transferring funds?
the excess.
Right, our shortfall's gone down to 219,000 from 2 weeks ago because of the new one that went in.
We added in the correct, or the final, I guess, I mean, the final tax levy estimate that you passed tonight. Yeah.
So deficit's at $1,894,790. Spendable fund balance at 2.2 million. That's $12,000 less than 2 weeks ago. But that brings our excess general fund balance to $346,137 now, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Correct.
So on the estimate on the revenue, did we take into account which number on the grocery tax?
That was initially the 100,000 that we've always been talking about.
Okay, is there,
That's the low end of it.
because the
But yeah,
last
roughly
meeting,
that, yeah.
I thought somebody said something about.
$348,000 in grocery tax.
We can cover that one next. Cover that.
Next agenda.
Yeah, it's next agenda.
Cover this, I mean, it's.
I just thought we were talking about the budget in general.
Yeah, this is a whole discussion, it's that.
Oops.
Other changes, like I said, you got the comparisons here, other changes in there, in the last budget, there was a lot, you'll see that each of the wages have changed slightly in here. So that's a change on there, it's the longevity, we were calculating longevity, was being calculated incorrectly. On the system we had it set up. So you'll see those are the correct longevity numbers now, each of them. So a lot of the wages changed based on that. You'll see
Yeah,
those.
I'm surprised at some of those, why I made a note of that,
Yeah.
like, just,
So the wages were, yeah.
some people went up by like, some people's wages only went up by 0.5%, and other ones went up by like 12%. I was just
Yeah,
like,
well, the wages were changed, are changed across the board that way, but the numbers you see, the changes on the document that between the last two meetings, it's longevity, it's based on longevity. It was being compounded together versus sort of splitting them out a little better, so that's what those were. That's what longevity, that's the majority of what the changes were in here. For that, I think there was a change, we added in the non-capital item, I think the police guns were added in there, you'll see that's 15,000, that's in the non-capital purchases. That was just different way of talking about the capital, we sort of went and talked about that part. Talking about that a little bit, how we want to show those a little better, so those the non-capital purchases are in there, that's 15,000, so you'll see that that's actually the police department's is in there, which we in the past have sort of talked about during the capital discussions. Those are the main changes. The changes you see on there from last meeting to this meeting are really, it's just the changes in the longevity are the big ones you'll see in there. That's a change. You will know, here is an interesting one, I guess, is the pension line item that went up by $86,000. So we have a number that's set in our, by the state, sets the number, sets the contribution amount based on the actuarial tables they use and their accountings, they use that to make sure that their pension is funded. So our initial number that I put into the budget was based on that number. Again, though, as we appropriate every year for our tax levy, that number goes up just as it goes up by, it's incremental every year on that. So the appropriated number this year is that 561, which is why you see that higher number for the police pension. Again, but that's sort of a wash because we are appropriating more, so it's in revenue and it's also being expended the same. So you'll see those in both those columns, the revenues and the expenditures for the police pensions. So that's a wash on that one.
So I had a few here.
Yeah.
Let's start with this, if you guys want to chime in, but under plan community development, it was cleared up here. The $100,000 for item 109, 5241, 5242, 5245. These are all planning development special projects. They're budgeted for this. We could move them into roads, right? We can move the planning development stuff and those monies into other buckets, correct? We can allocate and appropriate those funds in a different section if we choose not to, let's say the economic development. We just had a proposal from Place Foundry for $96,000, right? We decide not to move forward with that, even though it's a great thing. you know, we could put that money into roads, we could put that into, development like you guys were talking about with, some type of, economic housing, development, maybe create a fund for that if we're interested in doing something like that. I think that, Mike and John both talked about having some type of, fund that we have looking for housing development. So I guess my question is, these numbers are, that's $220,000 or $230,000. If we move that, what will we be losing?
Are you suggesting that
Yes.
the whole Department of Planning and Community Development?
No, I'm just saying, you have one, why are they broken up? You know, general, special projects, I mean, do we know, like, what are we forgoing if we, let's say we take,
What are they?
yeah.
And then I have one other question with that too, because in planning and community development, there's no salary in that department. But there's, and I mean, it's minimal, like $720 for disability insurance, but there's no employees, so where, is that a typo or?
I think some of these things were included to be a placeholder because at one time there was a suggestion if it wasn't outsourced and you hired somebody, then you would have that expense. So if you were to take a look at Economic Development Services General, the $100,000 placeholder, that can be outsourcing, or you can hire somebody in-house to do that. For example, if you hired somebody to do it in-house, then you would have the insurance cost. You would probably have membership dues.
Right, and that's why I was asking why there was,
Yeah,
there's somebody that's not there, which already in the budget, there'll be membership dues for uniforms.
yeah. You know, what we have in there, it just says like, if we were gonna do for, I don't know, sure, somebody, let me answer your question first. Yeah, that's,
Stay here.
one at a time. So Economic Development Services General, that's at 5241, that's $100,000. That's for general economic development services. Currently, that's what we base our place boundary contract, our annual contract with them, or if you want to hire other consultants, if you wanted to use it, I mean, if you want to hire an employee in-house, we probably would move that same number across a little bit, but that's what that 100,000 is for economic development, right? To having that money in there to use for some either, consulting, if we're gonna do a TIF consulting, if we're gonna do something else. But using that because we don't have somebody in-house for it, that's what that number was based on. That's roughly what we spent last year on that. Economic development special projects, again, that's,
Set 5.2, can you give me that?
sorry, 019 is Department 5242.
Okay.
Is the special projects. That's $20,000 in there. That's for, we've had additional, if we were going to use, either Graham or a different engineering firm or different planning firm, or even like if we were going to be charged to do that grant writing with R1, right? They included to require the MPO. If we needed to have a similar type of grant be written by a grant writer, that's a little different sort of outside of the general amount. That's why we got that 20,000. It's just sort of a number to come up with because we have to pay something. We sort of look at how much it costs to write a grant in the past for various ones. So that's the number that's in there to sort of to help us with that. Here's one that probably, you can look and decide if you want to change on this or not. This is a big one, but we've got plan services, special projects. This is the money we had in there
Which
initially.
number, please?
This is 0195245. So it's the next one with that. That was the number we had in there for the
The land use.
so yeah, the comprehensive land use plan. So that number was in there for something along those lines.
Which again, what's that?
That's 110,000. That's what we had quote for that. We looked at that. That's something, or if you were to use for, what?
5246, is that 110,000 or is?
3,000, that's engineering
Got it.
for the same type of thing.
Thank
These are these special project ones are those. So if you're going to do, I mean, likely that planning services, special projects, that's where your TIF would come out of. If you're going to do a TIF, it would come out of that 110,000 if you're going to keep it in there. You don't have to. Obviously, that's what we're having these budget talks for. That's what we're asking, this is the input that we need from everybody, but it's putting some money in there for ideas like that, where you would have that, TIF or, business district or, something else. So figure like the general services, whether they're consultants or they're in-house, they're covering the sort of like that staff member position, whether it's a consultant or an employee. And then these other special projects, the special projects ones are labeled special projects are more for the actual, separate projects that we're doing. So that would be what that planning services.
It is helpful to have a description of it, Joe. Just looking at this, you don't know what that means. Looking at this, and so my first blush is that I would recommend that we would have one category just for grant writing and special economic services at like $50,000 and remove the rest and move it into capital funds.
I agree with that.
So we'll pull out,
Just a real quick
so I
tip.
guess that's a question. Are you interested in, are we still planning on doing, TIFs? Is that a thought?
I think we do tip and special projects for, allocate $50,000. And we could call it that specific. I'd like to see that called that in the budget, not general use special fund. Let's call it what it is so we can look at it and anyone in the public can look at it and say, this is for grants, this is for TIF. And we budget what we think grant writing will be, we budget what we think TIF will be, and the rest we move into capital.
So I guess that's what I'm asking is what would you,
Me,
what's your thinking about for those? What would you like to?
I'm in total line with that of 20,000. If there's 30,000 covers the TIFs and put 50,000 in a bucket. And the other two go bye-bye and they go to roads.
30,000 isn't gonna cover it.
No.
Okay,
I'm sorry. 30,000 would cover the legal of the tip. You might have enough of 50,000.
Yeah.
Or more for the consultant who develops the plan and project and there's 3 ordinances that have to go forward. It's it takes.
So I closer to 110 for 2 TIFs.
And, there's a lot of public hearings, a lot of input.
Well, can we call that then on the line item? Can we call it TIF funding?
Wait, sorry.
So anyway, it's the process.
We don't-
All recoverable through the TIF increment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see TIF funding, grant funding.
The rest goes separate. I mean, you could do them in.
There you go.
I mean,
Some-
it's cheaper to do together.
There can be.
We can call them whatever we want, but we still need to know what we want to do. So you said 1 TIF, 2 TIF, what would you like to put? We're going to budget for doing 2 separate TIF districts? Is that what we're looking at?
I don't know the process of doing it. How lengthy is it?
I haven't seen what you're looking at. I mean, in McChesney, when we did 3 RJL TIFs, we did Willow Creek North, Willow Creek South, Weststone, kind of all simultaneously. But it was well over. I mean, it probably some economy of scale because we did them together. So we could hold all the public hearings at the same time. We use the same consultant. You have to get an eligibility report, then a plan and project, and go through the joint review board meetings. It's a process. But we piggybacked. I mean, it seems to me from what I've seen of the Rockland Road and Love Road, whatever, that looks very positive.
That seems like it's ready to go.
That's
where our
right.
focus right now.
You take raw land and improve it, you create a huge amount of income.
That could be one tip, couldn't it, up there?
I mean, possibly, I would be a big TIF, but.
And Main Street could be another one.
Well, I think we're talking about just 90 for right now.
Yeah, if that's gonna be 100,000, that's to say for that area.
So therefore,
I mean,
if
you
you,
probably ought to talk, at least have a conversation with a TIF consultant.
so if you retain economic development services general, that $100,000 amount can be a comfortable amount for the consultants that you would have to hire to talk about and develop the TIFs.
Yes, the big question, I mean, so that's one issue, but the other big question is, do you want to have any sort of economic development either in-house or out external person where you have a economic development?
I don't think the $96,000 for what,
You're saying in general, not down, not place down.
What I would recommend, what I would like to see, this is one vote, is I'd like to see 110 for the TIF, keep the 20 for grant, and move everything else for the cap.
Like,
However, if you get a TIF and you require, some legal services, here you have legal services, special projects, 30,000. You have to have a line item that you're going to bill the associated costs of doing that TIF. And that's what that does. So my concern is if you narrow this focus, then you're either not going to have enough money to cover the various levels of services that go into that. Because you will have legal costs associated with the TIF. You will have the general services of the consultant. You may also have some design and engineering that would have to go into that.
The opportunity costs us the roads. I think if we can trim $100,000 out of here and put it into the roads, are we in agreement with that?
Yes. What's the 100?
So we'll knock it down. So we're gonna knock down these. So essentially, we're gonna bring the economic development budget down to, you say plus 30 or plus 100 times plus what? You said 30?
30. Or I thought the comment was bring it down by 100,000, bring that.
95 down to 95.
We'll knock, we can, yeah, we can
That was my suggestion. I mean, you know,
reduce it down,
one vote.
reduce it by 100,000.
I mean, again, I don't want to comment because
They're a big.
but you don't want to handcuff yourself too much.
They're buckets. That's what they are. These are buckets. We can knock it down by
We need to
100,000.
be able to react.
It's our appropriations, right?
Right.
It's.
Yeah. So we'll knock the.
You don't have to spend it.
We can bring it down by $100,000. So we'll eliminate that. General economic development services. On that.
I'd also like to see a place holding for 100,000 for a housing development, potential housing development.
Would you elaborate?
Yes, I can. Yeah, that would be, and maybe you want to speak, right? There's a $500,000 loan program by the county. It's a zero interest loan program. Essentially paid by whatever we really want to pay back and how long we want to pay that back. They prefer it in 7 years. We can do a 5-year plan at 500,000. We can do 100,000 a year and pay that back. That would be our investment to a developer who would want to build some housing in our area, which is extremely needed. County, and if you won't, feel free to back me up, Ray, I'll let you speak if you wish. But the county is in 110% agreement with this project, would love to see this project. And our investment in that project would be that loan program. The money we're going to make back over 5, 10, 20 years, those homes are going to be there as astronomical. We're going to make our 500,000 back. Do I have that number in front of me in how many years? No. But we're going to make that money back. That 500,000 will eventually come back to the village at some point in time.
Who in the county was supportive of giving a loan for housing development?
Joe Chiarelli, John Sweeney, Dornbush.
There's an economic development partner or subcommittee. And they had expressed some interest in that.
Could you for the clerks and for the minutes, could you introduce?
I'm sorry, this is Ray Thompson, County Board, District 4.
District 3.
District 3. He's in our district, District 3.
I'm a little confused. This is the tipping fee we're talking about, correct? The money from the tipping fee.
Yes.
That goes into the county. When I talked to Chris Dornbush, he indicated that the concern here in making this loan is who the end user is. And normally the end user that the county supports are those businesses that grow jobs. A factory, for example, that's underutilized or something that's on the cusp, and something that will lead to greater retail development or job growth. And out of his mouth, he said, not supportive of residential subdivisions because you do for one, then you have to do for all of them throughout county. And so he led me to believe the focus is, as I said, on commercial and retail and not residential.
He shared something similar to that with me as well. He also said that they can examine the overall project to see the economic impact to the community. But in general, you're spot on with that. So we could take this proposal back to them and say, hey, can we get 500,000 or whatever the magic number is? And ask them.
What if there was a mix, you know, between if you had housing and,
That's one of the reasons why they are.
That's why they liked it, because you had economic development and you had businesses along it.
so that way you could,
So there's a specific project you guys are talking.
Yes.
So I mean,
Yes.
that's really what this comes down to. It's not just us saying, hey, we're just gonna throw money at this. We have something that we need to clarify, the county. Could be an opportunity for us. If we can confirm it, again, I would suggest we take this $100,000 out of this budget and put it into that. And I was saying roads first, but if it makes sense to do this, but we need more information to see if this is something we can do. But if we get positive feedback from it, I think that would be very appropriate.
It's a placeholder for economic development. So this would be
Everything
economic development.
That's the way you want to, yeah, if you want to slide.
We don't need, I don't think we need to like,
That's fine.
we could leave it as an economic development line item and just, we're holding it for this purpose.
Want to level it.
Well, and then that would mean you're not doing place on an area that's what it would come down to.
We've already pulled that out. I guess the question is gonna be is, do you want to do, I mean, we talked about moving 100,000 out of economic development and then keeping, 100,000-ish for the TIF. So I think we just leave. Honestly, we can change the line items title
Yeah.
where they go, that's fine, but I don't think I think the budget stays the same on there. Minus the $700 or whatever it was for the disability insurance, which I don't think is probably supposed to be out there.
Attorney Green has a suggestion.
No, I have a comment. The TIF is a great tool and it's a wonderful thing and I think it's a very positive thing. But it was a tool that Place Foundry was using in terms of there are other things they were gonna do. If we're just gonna do a TIF, and I have, McChesney Park generally just does a TIF and then staff goes out and finds people and tries to get the development going. So, but I'm just pointing out that that was one of their tools, but you can do it without that. Absolutely.
Well, I'm looking at the TIF as the tool we need. We should have the TIF in place. Then go after the grant money. From what I'm understanding, we apply for the grant. We might not hear anything back for 1 to 2 years on when it comes through. If we get denied the first time, we can reapply. So that could be a budget item next year or the year after to bring back a Place Foundry or a consulting firm as we're working through these items. I really think our focus right now would be to get steps in place, spend the money to get those steps in place before we just keep spending money that could go to another purpose that's almost shovel-ready project.
The other thing that I really just keep harping on here, but I like having labels in there rather than just saying economic special service, economic special projects. Let's call it what it is. Let's label it. This is going to go for grant writing. This is going to go for the TIF. So we can look at this and say, this is what it is. Somebody asked me, what is this here? I mean, I want to be able to look at it and see what it is. So even if it's just a placeholder, I think that we need to do that.
Joe, is there some reason why you have it vague like that? Because I agree with Mike. Why don't we call it what we're gonna budget for?
I mean, I guess it could be changing, to try to make it consistent across years and across, across departments. It's honestly what the sort of the naming and sort of like
Did you put something in parentheses next to it, though, under that? You just put something in parentheses next to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's fine. Parentheses on the account and then also even like, here's, we put more detail in here's what this account is. We have like a nice little chart that goes around with.
Subcategory.
But you're right, in the actual name, we can put.
Well, yeah, we have pensions in multiple departments and in parentheses next to it says like the pension for IMRF or pension for police or, I understand what you're saying. It just makes it easier.
Well, then we don't have to pull money out. We just know what it's allocated for. We know this 110 is going to go for,
potential.
We just want to make sure we put a subcat, call one place now, right?
So is the overall suggestion then, keep the total? And then, for example, eliminate disability insurance and uniform and plug those dollars in any other one of those categories. And eliminate membership and dues and department operating expenses and plug those dollars in any one of those categories, either put it in, as you said, more in whatever line item you're calling the TIF or consultant or TIF design or legal services or TIF or whatever. So what I think I'm hearing is not hiring someone in-house, therefore you don't need those individual categories, and then just put those dollars in somewhere else within this
Yes.
whole planning and
With a
community
specific-
development fund,
specific-
but keeping the 470. So you might have special projects bumped up by $1,000 or 1270, example. And then whatever avails itself over the year, you can,
Well,
one of those categories.
the four,
All going into the special project.
the 4,000 departmental operating expense, we just added, those other smaller items at 700, 250, 500 for that. Just call it a contingency. Everybody else has a contingency, just keep that $6,000 as contingency fund.
Whatever.
So if we need it somewhere in that department, it could just go there.
Yeah, essentially we move everything into special projects. We'll call it TIP or whatever. Then we'll adjust we'll adjust those other smaller.
And I have one other question, being a novice at this. Sorry if I'm gonna make your head go crazy, but our contingency fund to the departments, since we're talking about contingencies. 25, we had 140 grand in contingencies. This year, we're budgeting for 150. Did we use all the contingency money last year? Where does it go? Does it roll over somewhere? Like, it's a placeholder, I get that, but
There, I mean, it's for. I guess it'll get moved through there. We've had things that come out of contingency. We had, what public works thing we had early on. One of them was the remainder last year was remaining the pay of the residential roads, I think. That ended up coming out of contingency. We didn't have that as a separate. That came in late on there. I think, what's their public works one too? There are various things come out of them. And contingency literally is things that you can't plan on before while you're budgeting. So we can knock them down. It's been good to generally have a contingency, and they're sort of smaller amounts in each of the departments.
no, and I understand that. I just,
No, and it's
but
a
if
good
we,
point.
if we said we're gonna spend 140 and we spent 70, where's the other 70 grand? Or are we just adding,
It's
just adding like another 120 onto it?
We're just not spending it. Yeah. Yeah, and I think we changed some of them around. We changed, I think our public works didn't have any contingency last year, so we moved, that was the issue. So that's why we dropped it way back. I think parks got knocked down to like 5,000 and then public works changed it. I don't think we added contingencies or anything. Oh, never mind.
They went up a little bit because.
Sam went up. Oh,
Bridge being out
yeah.
next year and.
That's right.
I know yours went up, but then parks went down by 30 grand. for this year, So that's,
Parks and everything else stayed the same. Other contingencies stayed the same except for the addition because of the bridge across there. Public works and parks. We've sort of balanced them out a little bit there, just because we can have any public works contingency and we pull the parks part way out, but I mean, generally it's a number that's in there. We kept it fairly low. I think we just looked, if just a few missing things that happen, things you can't plan for. Well, yeah, the money doesn't get lost, doesn't go anywhere. We don't just continue adding to it every year. We keep it roughly the same numbers. But it's really just for things that you really can't plan for ahead of time. And it gets a little bit of padding in there for those types of things.
okay, and then I had one more question, and I'm sorry, Troy, this one's for you. The budget for public works there was nothing last year for operating supplies, but there's 200,000 this year. Do we need to purchase equipment? It was on page 13.
You know what account number you're looking at?
I'm looking at 50-030-6040. What was it? 50-030-6040, operating supplies, 200,000, right below the contingency of 30,000. That wasn't there last year, which I understand that now.
Oh, I know what it is, yeah, road salt. That's operating, that is the.
Okay, I'm just asking. Yeah, because it says operational supplies, I'm like, that's a lot of staplers.
So 50, you said the 50-030, so 50 is MFT,
Okay,
that was the issue.
again, I don't know the code.
No,
so-
no, that's why I'm looking up, they're listening, yeah, I'm looking up here right now, that's what it is, so that's that number is, it was not in that. It wasn't put into the MFT fund budget last year. So that's what your $200,000 is, that's the $200,000 in road salt.
Okay,
That would have been adjusted from other accounts from last year, but that's why it looks so much different. Like, that's a big number, but yeah, you're absolutely right, the huge number.
and then I'm just looking at subdivision signs then drop by a lot, like to 3,500, so is that just, if somebody knocks down a sign, if you need a stop sign put up?
Subdivision sign,
That's this year.
$1,500.
Well, no, we approved them, they haven't been put up yet.
yeah.
Well,
That's technically.
I'll
they were
answer.
paid.
I didn't know those are signs within the subdivision.
Yes, subdivision signs, we have that program we put in place, so you don't probably know this section. So this board, no, I did what I'm about to tell you right now. The board last year put in place a program where homeowner associations can come in and say, hey, I want to maintain my subdivision entrance area. Plant flowers, I want to spruce up the sign, I want to, fix things up that way. We have a grant program in place for homeowners associations or.
It doesn't have to be a home, it could just be a group of homeowners.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, you're correct.
I was just curious, I saw
So-
15,000 for this for 25, 3,500 for this year, but it wasn't in the budget 2 weeks ago, so I was like. I thought that 15 was
Yeah.
signs we were purchasing, and that's why it wasn't in here for this year, so I wasn't sure what that item was.
Because that number originally came through would have been from an earlier budget, would have been the purchase we put in the capital fund last year. That gets tweeted out, and that's why it was zero, but we're like, okay, well, you have some money in there for this homeowners association program, if people do want to come in and ask or do it. And so I think that was set based on if, two homeowners associations came, based on our, ordinance we have in place, so.
And it's
It's a down
limited,
number.
like, you can't do it every year.
And we've replaced a lot of signs over the last few years ourselves as a village as well, so.
And then. Last thing,
All good questions,
I'm just asking these things, I don't, like I said, again, I'm learning the process this year, next year I promise a lot easier. So that's the last thing
these are good.
in Public Works. On the bottom of page 12, we have 20,000, like we have our maintenance and repairs for streets and highways, then we have contracted repairs. Class D patching, sidewalk repair, those are all separate items, that's not part of our capital. Projects and all that, right? That's something that we just constantly maintain, I just wanted to make sure.
Maintenance.
Because sometimes we've talked about Class D patching and other capital improvements, I'm like, wait, why are we paying for it twice or having two different areas? So I just wanted
Try to
to.
explain what those different categories are. And so these categories, when we developed all these categories, it weren't just, me sitting here doing them. I did a lot of them, but I'll bet that. But it was all, you'll see ones that are very specific to those departments. Like Sam's got some specific ones because he wants to track them from year to year to year. Troy's got specific ones. He wants to track year to year to year. We try to do broad as much as possible, but when you see specific, very specific items, it's because the departments want to track those. So.
Right, and we had a 300% increase in sidewalk repair, but just wasn't sure.
See one, I'll answer that one. So sidewalk repair.
I was just curious because I barely see sidewalks
Yes.
except for a few areas.
That is something that we need to get going on. And it's a 300% increase, but it's going from
Right, it's from 2,500 to 10 grand, it's.
so we have a lot, so we have our sidewalk, so residents are required to maintain their sidewalks. We have inspection program that we should be doing annually across all the sidewalks throughout the village. Paying notices, working with residents, talking with them to get those replaced. We used to be a lot more active on our sidewalk maintenance programs that we had in place. We haven't really been for a few years here. We need to get back into that again, just for our own village protection. So that is actually the resident 50-50 split, because our intention would be then this summer to start doing a lot more inspections, getting a lot more, working a lot more to get some of the sidewalks replaced, cracks in front of people's houses. There's, major damages, or there's some of the old part of town here has a lot of sinking areas for the sidewalks.
It's the tree roots that are.
Tree roots.
causing that pave.
So that's why that got bumped up this year.
And yeah, I was wondering what the 50-50 was, because I didn't.
Yep, with the intention of really getting back into where we need to be and maintaining our sidewalks through there. So that would be the, portion of the split with the residents for those residential sidewalks. Which we've sort of had it, drop over the last bunch of years down at 2,500, but and as we'll see this year how, the 10,000 works, or if that's a good number to start with, right? I think it's a good number to start with. We have a limited budget. But yeah, that's what that was.
See how far that gets us this year, and then we can have a starting point
Yeah.
for future.
So that's what that would be for the 50-50 program. Is trying to get back into that inspection. Do you want to cover what those other types of categories are you have?
Yeah, for the types of different, one is like bulk maintenance, that's for like if we get like our hot mix, or if we have to get roadstone, anything like that. The other maintenance, contracted maintenance. We obviously if we get big company here to, stripe our roads, or like a couple of the catch basins. And then the last one is like for public works of going out, actually working on the roads. If we just have to buy like our manhole ring protectors and different things like that.
I was just curious, because again, it's like, I hear so much about our capital improvement fund for roads, and I saw this for roads, I'm like, wait. Because it's really, on average, every year, we're doing 100, we're doing 600 and something towards road in two different funds.
And so Class C patching is maintenance. So that's in that general fund. It's a general fund expense. So 01 in front of your account numbers, that's the general fund. So you'll see 01 and you'll see, 50 is MFT, and then there's the capital. You'll see something just the capital improvement fund too on some of these projects.
Is that in the glossary at the back of the book?
It is. There's a list of all of the accounts, department numbers, account numbers, that's in that. There's it's called like a part of accounts in your tab on Clear Hub. But yeah, that's what that, so that $100,000 is that capacity patching program.
How much did we spend this year?
124,000. And again, that's where contingency came from. So we had $100,000 or roughly 120,000 in capacity patching. Then sort of the board budgeted, we can increase or decrease, but I think seems to be pretty good.
Yeah,
I think what we've looked at this year, right? Good number. And then I think maybe in October, the board approved the culvert replace or the culvert. Culvert replacement. Yeah, that was about $124,000 or so, and that came out of contingency. But again, that was under that same capacity patching contract, requiring the same contractor to do that. So that's a good example of a contingency, but that's what that capacity patching is, 100,000. So that's how much that's what we do for that Class C program, which is separate from the residential road program, which is the actual full replacement generally of the roads.
Okay.
The full replacement. This is just the Band-Aids, which we've done a little more.
Village-wide maintenance.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
I did have a question, I guess. Mike just reminded me you said on, what's it, Hawks Point Trail? Would it make more sense to wait? So is there gonna be more construction up there? Is that what you're saying? Is there gonna be?
Yeah. I mean, Denali Heights is actively being built out. They're now essentially complete with 2 of the plats. They're under construction and about 30 to 40% done with the third plat. There are still 2 plats remaining. We don't know when the developer is going to build out the rest of that. That's going to be based on the market, but
It's really the residents who are moving into those homes that are gonna be using that street to get out.
Okay, because I was just thinking that if we fix it up and then have a bunch of construction vehicles.
so yeah, per the ordinance, regular vehicles, passenger vehicles, things like that can utilize those roads. If a developer wants to use existing village roads for their construction equipment, they have to put a bond in place with the village to repair any
Within
defects. So we would do an inspection and evaluation. We, see what the existing condition of the road, we document it. Then we do an inspection afterwards and we determine, do we need to pull from that bond if they put one in place? Do we need to pull from the bond to repair those roads? The goal and the developer currently in Denali Heights, so speaking of Hawks Point Trail, all of their construction traffic has to come off of Gleesman Road. So they are not allowed to take those big equipments. And the goal is if we improve, Hawks Point Trail, that will be able to handle all of the additional residential traffic, and it shouldn't create any issues.
And then are there any other roads in Hawks Point? Like we did, Promontory, and we were saying, okay, we have equipment out there, we have this, what we're doing Hidden Creek. Is there other county scale roads that could be addressed out there while we have equipment out there that?
Yeah, possibly. Night Owl Lane, I believe, is the other cut through route that gets over to Old River Road. That's a possibility. I will tell you that the condition of those roads in Hawks Point is not as bad as some of our other subdivisions like Sagewood, Chicory Ridge. The issue is when, if you look at just the numerical values of those condition ratings, and you just say you want to do all the worst roads, then you're hodgepodge throughout the entire village and you're not getting the economy of scale. So the thought was keep the repairs close while also understanding the anticipated development and additional traffic that will be coming to those roads.
Yeah, and the reason we brought these up for this meeting, just in general, is so you can start thinking about these, because the sooner we can get the engineering going on that, and Fairgraham can start their design work on that, the sooner in the spring we can bid it out. So again, so if there are questions about that, ask Brandon if you want, see other roads, let us know. We can get Brandon can put different roads out there, but that's why we asked him to put together here's what Fairgraham's proposing for roads this year, just so you can have your feedback on it, look at that, and then we can get that contract at the first board meeting in January, or roughly, right, beginning of January, and then get Fairgraham working on that so we can get those put out.
Did this include the 300 from capital funds?
So yeah, the
This number,
resident program
750?
roughly is, $500,000 any given year. We put this together, yes, to include that potential additional 300,000. Whatever the budget number is that you guys decide, we've already agreed as a staff that Fairgraham, when we're doing the design services, we will set up alternate bids. Like we've done in the past, where yes, we have an expected scope of 500,000. We think that we can get these roads, but we will have alternate bids for additional roads. That way, if the bidding comes back in economical, we can add those roads in. So really, it's just generally, are you okay with the roads? And then what is that final number going to be? Fairgraham can, develop a bid package based on those two decisions.
I had my,
No, you're rolling, man.
I'm sorry, I was gonna jump back then as long as we were talking about this, the capital fund uses. So just to go back to clarity with that. Sorry, this one happens, I get the stuff I need. I do a lot of research at it. So now, what order do we need to go? All right, so we're running all our numbers then based on the new breakdown. Right, we have on page 4, residential roads, we have budgeted for 500,000. We have 1,087,000 set aside for Porter Park Phase 2, because that's the requirement for the grants. Main Street parking, final pay application is now at 103,000. That concerns me just a little bit. Why don't we just, maybe my concerns, I mentioned that. I know.
Yeah, that's
When did you mention that?
It was the
I spoke to Carol about.
it's the final pay application. That's
Sorry, President Gustafson.
the final amount. Most of that is retainage from Centrum till they finish the project. So the project scope hasn't changed, the price hasn't changed.
Right, and
It's just the retainage.
and I understand that being from a construction background, I just want to make sure that because of the issues that happened, that something isn't squeezed in down the road. 'Cause
Insurance.
2 weeks ago it was 60 grand, maybe 187 grand, now we're at 103.
That number is the number that's left that hasn't been built.
Okay,
But the 103 includes the retainage that's being held back from all the subs on that.
Okay, so it
That's-
wasn't
that's the
building, it
final-
was okay.
Final, like, that's the actual final number, including the retainages.
Okay, and then the Riverside Park Pavilion's still in there at 180 total. And then that brings our project fund to 2.3 million. With a remaining balance of 490,000. Is that correct then?
Yes. Yep,
We have no other
and that's the question,
changes?
that's that's the number we talked about, do you wanna move that all into the residential road program? So that's what I think we mentioned last time, we were gonna move that final numbers in. I
Right,
think there's a roof, I don't know if you wanna address capital projects, we could, I think, Troy, you wanna address your roofs that need to be done. That weren't brought up as part of the capital discussion last week, but. Just roughly,
Yeah, the main roof that, well, there's three roofs that are a little police garage that we have the tarp over right now, our main public works building, and then our salt shed. All those are bad shape. We need to go out the bid and get them all done, get the best price for that. I don't know how much it's gonna be. We were like, I'm kind of guessing between 150, 175 for all three of them.
okay,
If anything, I'd like to get at least the public works building done for next year. The other two, we can still wait, just do little patches on there. This is our main, everything's in our main building. We don't want to let that go.
all right.
so that's pretty much the other main capital project that we decide on. The guns were one of them from the police department. And then this was the other one, is the roofs, so.
Well, I know, I'm just looking at it right here with the proposal that we got from Brandon tonight. If we moved the $250,483.05, that would bring it to what you're guessing the bid is, the full 750, a little over. That would then leave almost 240,000 still sitting there. Because you got $490,471 with what's presented right now. If I take the difference, what we're missing in our residential roads, which that's quoted at $750,483.05, that would be, move that money over to there, that leaves us with, right?
Suggestion is just split it, put half of it toward the roads and the other half to the roofs.
That's a discussion we can have, yeah.
I mean, that's a discussion.
Roofs, do you wanna do all the roofs, do you wanna do,
Well,
do you wanna use a number roughly for all of them or individuals?
I would say, like, we're looking at all three of them, that's at 175. I don't know, I would want to get quotes for it, but I'd rather, can we just hold that without allocating dollars tonight? Hold it in, we love to use the word contingency fund or capital improvement projects. Get some quotes, maybe we decide that the main building and the salt shed, because salt getting out in the elements with bad roofs doesn't help the product, right? Or the police roof and the police garage roof and that main roof get done this year and something else gets done the following year. There's a little extra money in case another passion project or something happens, or we find a road that's really bad. We have a little bit of a buffer then if we're looking at that. I'm just throwing it out, like,
No,
this is
I
what we're
think-
here for, is a discussion.
The other
so.
thing that I think.
I don't want to allocate everything to one thing without.
Exactly, and that's what my next point is, I think we need to do some due diligence, I think. Brandon and Fair Graham have done some work on capital fund projects. I think we need to, at least as a board, look at those, review those, at least get them in our heads and at least think about those before we start. And I think we also need to go to, as board members, need to go to this operating and pull some purse strings and make sure we're coming in at a better number. But I think we owe it to them to at least look at their capital projects that they've come up with and what the costs are, at least discuss those before we start allocating all this money to specific.
No, that's fine, it just. When it comes down to what goes in, it really is what comes down to what goes in that residential road program, so.
Yes.
Well, if you look at what Brandon passed out, Crystal Hills, Saddle Club, Fox Point. Estimate at 750. We traditionally spend 500, as you know, so the additional 250 can come out of this remaining balance, or you can decide not to do one of those and just stick to 500.
That's, go ahead.
Or you can go from operational, you can move money from
That's what I'm saying.
operational.
We need to
Yeah.
pull them up. Maybe we need,
So I
we
mean,
all need to pull a little purse string on here.
so I'm saying that, 110 in the operational, you go towards roads, pick that up.
Well, that's the other question too with our budget. Do we shop things regularly like health insurances and other items? Because I mean, I'm on a board for a small organization and we were able to save an extra 50 grand with 5 employees. They get the same coverage. But I mean, I'm just watching all the numbers go up. Just curious.
Industry-wide, they are, we belong.
No, I know. I had a 700% increase this year. I know.
Several years ago, the village did shop around and we got into what is the official label of that organization, Joe, that we belong to. It's a consortium of a lot of municipalities. It's a risk pool. And we have had, let's say, if there is such a good thing, the rate of increase has been much lower than the average. And so we have been able to, yes, our costs increase, but not by the double digits that they increase for everybody else. And it has been effective for us over the last few years. So yes, there's a constant look at it, but this has been organization that has worked the best year over year. The best price, plus it gives our employees a choice between a PPO and HMO and all of the coverage they have.
I'm done.
Okay, but my concern, back to the residential road program, we keep hearing that, I guess I'll ask you, Brandon, what would be if there is such a thing as a drop dead date that would be preferable for beginning to put out or compile specs and put this out for bid? Do you see this happening in February?
So I actually asked contractors specifically last year, when do they think they can get us the most economical pricing? They would like to see projects out for bid in the first quarter of a calendar year. And that means all design done in the first quarter out for bid. You then get ahead of state-led projects, larger projects, and then the last minute, a lot of smaller municipalities sometimes lapse. So the first quarter of the year, so if we're out for bid at the latest by March, if earlier possible, that's great. I can tell you on a resurfacing, general resurfacing scope like this, Bear Graham typically needs, let's say minimum of 6 weeks, but probably 8 to complete design and get things out for bid. That obviously, bid specifications come to you guys in the form of, council meetings as well. So I would say a decision on what the final projects are going to be by the end of January. And hopefully at that same meeting, when when it's decided, or the meeting after, Bear Graham can present a proposal for design services.
This proposal does not deviate from what we said 2 weeks ago. We had given you about an $800,000 figure, and this estimate is coming in at $750,000. So is there any objection to going with this proposal for residential roads and say, this is what we're going to do this year, and we're going to get the additional $250,000 out of this balance, then go back into and fine tune and find 100 here, 500 there, 1,000, wherever you can in the operating budget, and have in mind that you're going to earmark that for the roofs that Troy needs, and whatever you find does one, two, or maybe all 3 roofs. But at least you are getting your residential road program specs done and out to bid so that we can get the best possible price because we're ahead of the game. Roofs, it's a balance. rather see the road.
I think that's a good suggestion. I also think that, realistically, I'd like us to take a look at these planning and community development projects here, the 100, the 20, the 110. Look at if we can pull money out of that for capital projects. And that would make up some of that, maybe give us money for roofs. And then have specific categories that say specifically grant writing, specifically what we're doing with some of these other things that we discussed. And let's model that, see what that looks like. What are we forgoing? All these things are just trading one thing for another, opportunity costs.
Yeah.
So, that's really what we need to do. And I think that I would like to see us focus on those 4 categories. And I'd like to have them written out sort of specifically, so what we're talking about. And if it makes sense for TIF, we just do TIF for 90, we do our grant writing. If we can get the money out of that, the rest we dump in the roads. Or if you and Ray guys can come up with some more verification on housing, that's other options also.
I think that your specific question or proposal, Carol, is that, to me, it's like, these seem like a good, I don't see us coming back in a week or 2 weeks from now and changing what you put in front of us. So I think if it's helpful to you for us to get it going, I'd support it.
If it's decided tonight that these are the roads that we're going for, at the next council meeting, we can have a proposal for design services ready for you guys to consider.
Everyone agrees?
Good.
Thank you.
So we're gonna move the 250 over to
The roads.
the road.
Well,
We have 240 in the remaining balance, and then looking for other economies that can enlarge upon that 250.
It will hold that 240 to the side. This contingency, and then we'll go through the budget and see what we could add to that amount for capital improvements.
Perfect. I've just had 2. I'd like a line place for professional search consultant for next year for 25,000.
I think that is in
Is it in?
thank you, Mark. That is in.
HR department, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's in HR, it's in 070176090.
Okay.
It's actually 50,000.
50, I think.
The request I had was to put 2 $25,000 searches. And so that's.
The 52,
Just a real quick question. How much do we spend a year on code enforcement? What's their, and where, I guess, what is their contract and how much is it and when is it up? Couldn't find it on the list.
Let's see, this year we spent,
it's on page 10. Is what we're budgeting, but I don't know what we spent this year.
yeah, I got the actual numbers for this year here. We're at. My nice little figures.
It's
Uh-huh.
7.6.
$18,000. 18,215 roughly, and that was for we only had them, of course, for the several 4 months here, or since
So we've only spent 18,000 this year.
yeah, for code enforcement. We've had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So August through December so there'll be one more, there should be one more invoice that goes under this year's charges, I would think. Yeah, August through December, the total is $18,000.
And
I think we figured 40,000.
I said I got 45 here.
Yeah, 45 for next year budgeted, plus 1,000 for Boeing code enforcement.
Again, I'm just on first things. We
We can
can,
eliminate 500 for uniforms. We don't buy them.
Yeah, the uniform thing we used for, I think, for their, yeah, we can pull it out. We used it for the sticker for the car.
and are they up at a certain time?
Maybe had a year agreement with them, but we can certainly look at something else or tell them to do less or to do.
I mean, personally, I'd like to see it back to local, but. I mean, that to see how many,
by advertising.
No, we can.
Yeah, I have a couple people already that are interested, but I don't know how many times they've been here and if it makes more sense to, again, trim a purse string again, but if we find someone local that can do that for 20 grand, part-time job.
I think last meeting we brought up if a comparison from last year to this year. Have you noticed any difference, Joe?
Yeah, I think we did, so, we had 126. I think last year was 126 was the total, and then this year, I think we got 76 open cases. But I mean, I think, like I said, we obviously can, if we can find someone good to do,
Wasn't that the one we just hired these?
that's what we did, because it was so difficult finding somebody for the part-time, for it, and they do it, here, and they do it in Southwood and all many other places. I think they've been very responsive. I think they've been very, good about doing their inspections, doing their responses. Again, it's a decision you can make on that. I think they work out very well, but again, we're paying a little more than we had someone just purely part-time person. But then we've got rid of our software for Comcast that's been pulled out, so that's been helpful. The vehicle, we've got this vehicle over here, the additional expense. It's just, it's a decision you have to make. How much do you want to do for that? How hard is it going to find someone locally to do it?
Can we do it part-time for under 45,000?
For the overall, I mean, probably, if we had somebody and want to train them, again, we don't, it's nice having some people who are trained who do this, who have the experience doing this and can just sort of jump straight into it.
And the
We don't
temperament.
have the temperament to do it. It's hard to find that particular person, right? Also, it's the fact that we don't have that, we don't have a community development person here. We don't have that overseeing person. It's nice to have somebody who can just jump straight into it, can sort of, operate. We can contact me or contact, Janelle, if they have a question about, were the permits issued, were these issued out there, or contact Hillary over at Vanderwall. But it's nice having an actual consistent company. If we want to have them drop, lower costs and we want them to do less, they'll do less for us. As we get into the winter here, our bills are going to go down too. That's what's nice too. They'll fluctuate based on the seasons, what we need to do. They were great. They're very proactive. For the mowing we had, we jumped into it. They got the mowers. They found the company to do the mowing. They got that contact with us, hooked up with that, and then they just do everything. It's nice having them be able to just to do it, not worry about it, and just to get it done, and at that fairly low price. But yeah, we can certainly lower that if I think 40,000 is all that much of a cost overall for that service, but we can certainly have them reduce it.
I think I'd like to go back to and see if there's a way they could lower the cost just for our benefit, even.
Knowing what they've gotten into now, they've done some of the work.
Yeah, and the other thing, the software behind it and all of the reports that they do, I mean, somebody individually is not gonna have that capability. You're gonna have to fund it, you have to have the car, that kind of stuff, but to me, I think try to get them to understand that we need to find some dollars and how can they lower the cost by eliminating something that maybe we don't need? Because I don't think in this neighborhood, we need to be raising the dander of people coming in here and reporting on, hey, we got these code enforcement things, which is the two people that we had tonight, I think. So.
Well, both of those I asked, I've asked someone to come and speak to the board because that's a zoning change. It's not really code enforcement for those two, but those
Anyway,
changes.
bottom line is, Joe, let's see what they'll do first before we have to try to recruit somebody.
I think looking at our bills we had, but around $4,000 a month is what it's been.
Last call for the evening for that, for budget.
Did you have other ones?
I got a few, but we can wait till the next meeting. They're small ones.
Oh, Vanderwall was another issue. I'd like to keep Vanderwall. I guess any questions about Vanderwall and our planning or zoning? I think we've got to the point now where I feel like we have a zoning consultant who's very active, who's local, who's coming in. Brandon and I work with her a lot, but
How much are they a year?
Contract is 60.
60 grand?
Yeah, roughly around that, yeah, yep, leaving under that. But I do say like, if we weren't, and I'm actually making it, with her, with, our sort of our being her point person with that on Thursday to go over the contract for next year and just see what we can do to adjust, costs and if there's anything we can reduce or change, but. A lot of that gets reimbursed, and working through that a little more too, but a lot of the developer fee stuff gets reimbursed through it. And then it's just sort of the other zoning and planning portions of it that we work with, but, that one I would absolutely. I think we should absolutely be working with Hillary, working with Vanderwall on that, because they've been helping out so much, sort of cleaning up our zoning code. You guys have seen it. I mean,
Downtown.
we've been changing, we're not just downtown, but we've changed, I don't know how many zoning codes over the last year here, tweaking them, adjusting them to make them more usable, more workable. And all that comes from Vanderwall. And in fact, that Hillary's just down the street, that she can come in and meet with developers, meet with, residents. And really, it's been an excellent experience working with them. So. Those are the main ones I think that I have on your list. There's smaller ones we can talk about later on if you like, or if you can send me questions, but those are the big ones for those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have some more later. We're still gonna purchase it. See, like cut a little bit here, cut a little bit there. We should comb through that and tighten it up.
I had a question as to something to consider the rest of the board, how special events kind of exploded to $47,000. Just like to wrap our heads around, what events and a general ballpark figure, but that seems to be like 10 or 15 grand more than we had spent traditionally.
Which special event was that? That one event, or they just overall?
It's overall, just there's a placeholder here, $7,000. So
John Holidays came in less this year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so.
Yeah.
I don't. Unless it's trunk or treat. You don't know.
that's only about 6.
We did a lot of.
And I don't know where the other.
So special events we have on here are.
How much is it there for 47?
And
That's a-
I feel like these have been, we've got these sort of. Special.
The National Night Out, is that booked in your department?
I think for National Night Out.
That's charged in your department, isn't it?
No, it's all.
Is this way too? Okay. So 2,000 for National Night Out, about 6 for Halloween.
Here they are. Trick or treat, we have 10, trick or treat, we have set at 10,000. You've got hometown holiday at 10,000. Fall festival candy is 1,000. National Night Out 2,000. We have restaurant week 2,000. National Public Works week 2,000. Well, this is one we probably pull out. This is a summer music event that we were going to have one year that got added last year into it. I don't know if that was on you on that. We had a different
How much was that?
partner. That was 10,000.
We never spent that.
That we pulled out, yep. And then we have 2,000 in there for the American 250. And then we do have another general, we have 8,000 just for other special events. So we can probably pull back, we can pull those two out. That's a good 18,000 right there. I mean,
Perfect.
easy enough to do.
$1,000 for candy, the Lions Club puts some, and then.
I'll donate my own candy.
Thank you.
On the record.
All right. I hope one out when he wants it out. But it's
I'll donate my own candy. Good lad.
That's been an issue in the past.
We good to move on? Number 6, discussion with Roscoe Road Treasurer Mark Olson. Discuss the new number 354, or was it to be 58? Publicly released at our last meeting pertaining to the Roscoe grocery tax. And discussion on that.
I'll just bring it up. I mean, I went back and watched video. President Gustafson said, due to the action of this board, villages were going $358,000 in grocery tax revenue. I asked for the number. Joe said that he got the numbers from Mark. Mark saying he never said that. So I'm wondering why we're being told that we would have a potential $250,000 for this.
I sent a dollar amount that came from the Illinois policy website that has.
That's right.
an Agenda. Yep.
So why are you guys
That
proposing that?
How they got here.
Illinois Policy Institute,
Yeah, so they have their
that's
own,
98.
they have their own agenda for what they look at. And what they look at is a number, and that number is more like a SIT code and has nothing to do with tax, total tax dollars from grocery 1%. So how that got here beyond that, that's a whole nother conversation.
How was that number
That's why
quoted?
we're here tonight.
Yeah.
Was there not a reporting of all of the dollar amount that was collected under?
Six. A SIT code means the grocery store itself. That doesn't mean the tax dollar of the 1%. So that SIT code means this is either I'm a gas station, I'm a grocery store here. The grocery store isn't 100% 1%. So if you look at what the state of Illinois has this little number out there, because I went and found the state of Illinois' number and where that came from,
That's the same number there.
which is the same exact number.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you look at that, go look at Rockton.
Right,
Rockton's got 80,000.
right. We're not $250,000 more than that.
Before I got in. Look at Ross.
Off Illinois Policy.
Yeah. So they're pulling SIT code dollars, tell people what it is versus what actually go out and figure the grocery store, you're gonna have to figure out what exactly is that? I mean, what do we got? One major grocery store here we gotta deal with? What are they actually selling for a grocery store as for sales dollars? That would
30 million.
1%. Was that 35 million?
35 million they'd have to do.
I'd have to get that number.
Yeah, is that 35 million or is that more like?
35 million.
Yeah.
It's 1%.
Is that not also collected from, like a gas station, if you walk out with a gallon of milk or?
It would be,
Uh,
stations, gas stations, things like that. I'm more saying that we're really gonna be material here. There's one place that sells it. It's just the one there. We could go around and nickel and dime all these other places, but if you're gonna look at one place, you're gonna look at that place, then you can project the rest of that onto everything else. That's how I do it. Because you're not gonna, the value to go through and calculate it for every place. I just don't think that's feasible or needed. You look at that one building and look at Schnucks, what are they gonna sell? Are they selling 35 million? 30 million?
So which number was used for our projection for revenue?
Well,
I wouldn't, I wouldn't, I'll be bluntly honest with you, that revenue projection is fine. That's the number I would say.
There we go.
I wouldn't change anything. I'm conservative when I do that stuff anyways. So
Right, and that number came from IML before we had the conversation, when they were.
that number came from me projecting. IML does not do sales. Notes.
I would just say, go back and look at the tape. My concern is that we were told as a board that we are foregoing, and that is our fault due to action of this board, that we are foregoing $258,000 in revenue, which is not true. We said that at the time. We didn't agree with that. Joe said he had the numbers from Mark. So I just want to know how the board was presented that, because you're going to be allocating $250,000 based on revenue that we will never achieve, that we could put in to other things that, well, it's not true. And so I would request at least a formal apology and a retraction.
It was information that was communicated and,
It wasn't.
yes, it
I
was.
just said it wasn't.
It was,
He said it wasn't. He just said he didn't say
it
that.
was sent.
So how did you get that number, Carol? $358,000?
It was
You
in-
said
it
it
was-
convincingly to the board.
It was in a communication that the village administrator shared with me and where he got that. And then
Where'd you get it, Joe?
I forwarded over the number from the Illinois Policy Institute.
It's 98,000, you just said it.
okay, so, all right. Mea culpa here.
Just asking for a retraction and an apology.
I assumed the information I was getting was correct. So you forego $100,000. And if we had that $100,000, you wouldn't be scraping through the budget to try to find money.
We should do that anyway.
For the roofs that need to be done.
For the record,
Leaving dollars on the table that people have been paying since
Mark.
1980.
Can I ask you on the sales tax, you said you were conservative because I see there's 2 million in the budget revenue projected for 26 sales, is that right, Joe?
2,000,001 or something.
2,000,001, yeah. And I just noticed, up to date revenue through October, we were already almost at that 2 million mark. And and this is now that we have this retail occupation tax, which is basically a sales tax on online purchases. What you agree, November, December would be probably a pretty good number as far as people buying stuff for.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta remember November, December come in February, March.
Right.
The timeframe.
But
Yeah, you would think so.
So I
Like,
So I mean, that's pretty conservative
Yeah,
considering we've already met
I'm
that.
conservative with the way, I mean, I'm expected to be more closer to 3. Well, I mean, but like I said, I'm not gonna.
But I mean,
I don't-
there's a
I don't
couple
have
hundred
numbers
thousand,
that are-
a couple 100,000 that we're just talking about scraping up, through expenditures and right there's 200-300 of revenue.
Mark, I'd like to apologize to you from the board. I don't believe that you said that to them, and I don't trust that they came up with that number through you. So my apologies to you. I wish that they would take accountability for it,
I
but
just did.
no, you didn't.
You don't have to beat things up all the time.
I'm not
I
beating things all the
apologize. I
time. You
did
said
realize it came from the Albright
$58,000, which is a
Policy
crazy
Institute.
number. But you wanted
I
us to
didn't
make
check
a
the
number.
source. I didn't
That's a
check the source.
$250,000 number that you're pushing on us.
It's a $100,000 loss at least. And something else that might happen during the course of the year, where do you see interest income going, Mark, as we spend the money on Porter Park? The $1 million.
It'll probably go down, but again, I think that number is
That
conservative.
reflected.
Yeah, because I mean, it's conservative compared to where, like, if you look at where we're budgeted at this year, where we're gonna end up. I would say the number that's sitting in there now is not much higher, I think that's gonna be significantly, I mean, it'll be. The total dollar will be lower, but I think the budget amount's correct. It'll probably be higher yet, still.
Your question, did you?
Yeah, I just think we're being conservative a little bit, and I understand you should be conservative. I'm just, because I know it's a transition going from it just started in 2025 with the kind of eliminating the use tax. And
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just wanting to get all the information that I can on it, because it's gonna affect how we.
I think in general sales tax, you gotta remember the dollar price is gonna go up anyways.
Mhm.
There's always gonna be an increase. Always assume people are gonna buy. It's just those years when everybody contracts, everybody contracts in the middle of the year. If something happens in the economy, you can't budget for that.
And I think it's important, if we're talking about sales tax, that we have all the information that we can.
Correct.
Okay, public comment, any?
I'd like to make one comment, please. On the hometown holidays, John Broda attended, our treasurer here, Kim attended, it was freezing out. And I would like to send a shout out to my wife Sharon Simon, who would not thank herself on that meeting, but she spent a lot of time with Mike Wright doing all the budgeting. She got her brother to come up and do all the graphic arts for us. So thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. No need for executive session. Adjournment, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, we have a presentation by some.
Representative. All in favor of? Thank you.
Well, we'll see the one in another 5 minutes.
Awesome, you could have.
What's he doing that?
So I got emails and questions.
Yeah.
I wanted to do a special meeting on Saturday.
Yeah.